Also, a decision is made to involve the private sector because through the feed-in tariffs. We have a feed-in tariff policy which sets out the charges payable to the private sector and developers on certain renewable energy sources in order to encourage their development. The renewable energies, this is in the areas of wind, but wind does not exceed 100 megawatt, hydro, small hydros, geothermal, also which does not exceed 100 megawatt. So developers are then the interest and proposals are received from developers and approved by a standing committee. And if they are found adequate, then the investments go on. Next, please. Then for those kind of developments, finally a PPA is then negotiated with KPOC. Next, please. Coming through unsolicited proposals, and these are tended to be in technologies like geothermal and wind, which have their own challenges involving private sector through a competitive bidding process without the country first having to invest in let's say the field exploration or even ascertainment of the wind resource before you can be able to invite competition, because then the country still lacks resources in that areas. So where projects, where proposals are found sound, some of them have been accepted, some unsolicited proposals have also been accepted for such technologies. Next, please. Okay, and then the other question will be, how do we make a decision on not only to engage a PPP or an IPP, but on the siting or the location of the project? And this is the decision on where the project is to be located is made based on how close it is to the natural resource. Like a geothermal project will always be located at the region where there is the natural resource. The same thing with the hydro and also the wind. The other consideration is the proximity to the load center and the transmission and distribution connection facilities. Next, please. We now look at the procurement process and approval process. Kenya has a Public Procurement and Disposal Act that governs procurement by the government and all state corporations, including Kenya Power, and competitive bidding is a normal method of procurement. And this, under the Act, also includes procurement for the development of electricity. The Act provides for review mechanism to bidders if they agreed with the evaluation and the tender award, with a further room for appeal in the High Court. Next, please. In addition to that, we have the public-private partnership regulations, which are made under the public procurement law, and these are specialized procedures for procurement and approvals of PPP projects. And the regulations also set up a secretariat of the PPP under the Ministry of Finance. At this point, there is a PPP bill which is still before our Parliament, which seeks to create, which seeks to make the PPP law a standalone law separate from the Public Procurement and Disposal Act. Next. The other element of the procurement and approval process is the fact that the PPPs are not only required to be approved by the government, that is under the PPP regulations, but the negotiated power purchase agreement is also approved by the energy sector regulator. Next. So how do we determine the prices? As a norm, the prices are determined through the competitive bidding process, but also the projects which come in through the feed-in tariff policy, the rates are also set up under the feed-in tariff policy. Next. For the unsolicited proposals, these are negotiated, and what we do here is that we look at the cost of the project, the cost of funding, and then we have what we consider as being accepted by the sector and by the regulator as a prudent return to be allowed to the private investors. And then now these are compared also and benchmarked with similar projects either in the sector or in the region. Next. Okay, one of the guiding factors is the fact that the energy sector regulator has a tariff policy which unfollowed a study which looked at what a reasonable return to be awarded to either the public sector players or the independent power producers would be. Next. This slide tries to look at the risks that we have taken in order to make our projects work. So Kenya is a developing country. The power market is small, and so for that reason we have taken the market or the demand risks. Our PPAs right now on a take-or-pay basis, and this arrangement, according to the energy sector policy, is going to be reviewed once the market grows. The other risk that we take is the forex risk, which is borne by the consumers, together with the risk of fluctuations in fuel prices. What happened regarding this is our energy sector has had its own experiences, and the issues of sustainability are very, very important in making a project work. So forex, and to admit that the private sector will not want to bear the risk of foreign fluctuations. Second, if there are fluctuations in the fuel prices, that's also something that we cannot expect them to bear. And a very practical then instrument was derived through the retail tariffs, where these fluctuations are actually passed through to the electricity customers. What has happened is that whether or not there are delays in the review of retail tariffs, at least there is an automatic pass-through mechanism where some of the costs are recovered. Next. Again, the political risks are borne by government through a legally binding letter of support issued to the projects. Next. The payment securities provided initially for the first for the first 4 projects, Kenya Power provided letters of credit, standby letters of credits to a security for the payment, for its payment obligations under the PPA, usually covering between 3 to 4 months. But what we came to realize is that with the planned increased participation by the private sector, the letters of credits were actually becoming a constraint on KOC's ability also to fund other core activities. So in view of this, we requested the government to provide sovereign guarantees in order to support the sector, but the government was also concerned about the contingent liabilities, the contingent liability by which goes with the sovereign guarantees. And please, next slide. And after discussions with the World Bank, the government requested the World Bank to provide partial risk guarantees to some 4 projects right now which are ongoing and some of which have already closed. That is the Thika Power, some 3 medium-speed diesel projects and 1 geothermal extension. In the same token, MIGA is also providing termination guarantees for these projects. Next slide. Okay, so what do we consider to have been factors which have perhaps contributed to the PPPs in the power sector? First, I think is an enabling environment which actually reflected government's commitment. We have a national energy policy that recognizes that we need the private sector in order for us to be able to meet the national power demand. And also the Energy Act also recognizes the private sector participation. And both the Energy Act and also the national policy, the energy policy, they recognize the need for cost-reflective retail tariffs, and also they recognize that the independent investors also must be able to have tariffs that attract capital and also which compensate them reasonably for the risks assumed. Next. I think the other arrangement which have also helped us is the fact that we have a mature regulatory framework. The sector regulator was created in 1997. The sector regulator has been approving power purchase agreements and has also been setting retail tariffs even when we get a new government. I think that has been a test of maturity. I think also the other issue which has helped us is the fact that KPOC has since 1996 developed capacity to procure, negotiate, and even to monitor the IPPs during the operating period. Next. Financial stability of KPOC as an off-taker has also been crucial, and the fact that KPOC, although we have provided payment securities, there is no LC which has ever been called upon. But also the sound governance of KPOC and the energy sector leadership, because effective procurement and the fact that you have to engage the PPPs, they actually require political